Welcome and welcome back to Really Legal. I'm attorney Ethan Bearman. Well, it was a stormy day in that New York courtroom for the criminal trial against Donald Trump as Stormy Daniels took the stand today. There was some big news that came out from Judge Merchan as well. I'll give you the good, the bad, and what's next. So Stormy Daniels, today was her day. Again, in this case, we don't know who's going to be testifying ahead of time for the safety and security of the witnesses. And in this case, Stephanie Clifford, Stormy Daniels, was the witness called by the prosecution today. We expected this. We knew it was coming. And very interestingly, in the briefest of summaries, I don't think that there were huge surprises, but there were two very interesting ones. One from Stormy Daniels herself, and the other one from Judge Merchan based on what the defense did. And I have one serious critique for the defense as well. So let's start with the fact that Stormy Daniels took the stand. She was testifying about the affair that took place in 2006, according to her testimony, with Donald J. Trump. They met at a golf tournament where an adult film company was sponsoring the hole on the golf course. Yes, you heard that right. I mean, you can't, again, everything since 2015 with this individual who's on defense here, you can't make this stuff up. The Onion's got to be going out of business because reality, you can't write it. It's just crazy. So yeah, an adult film company sponsored the hole. Stormy Daniels, Donald Trump showed an interest, invited her to dinner. She apparently, according to her testimony, said F no, but said the full word about going to dinner and then thought more about it. They got together. They went back to Donald. Sorry, I'm laughing, but this is crazy. They went back to Donald Trump's room. He was in satin pajamas and she mocked Donald Trump initially by saying, what did Hugh Hefner leave his pajamas? So then he changed into normal clothes. But here's where it starts to get very, very interesting to me, because I don't think we heard it quite like this before. And that is Stephanie Clifford described their sexual encounter in a way that suggests, she didn't say these words, but it suggests potential sexual assault. Let me quote what the Washington Post reported about this. There was an imbalance of power for sure. He was bigger and blocking the way, but I was not threatened, describing the moment when she entered the bedroom. Next thing I know, I was on the bed, somehow on the opposite of the bed. Her bra was still on. They were in the missionary position. Prosecution asked, do you have a recollection of feeling something unusual? She said, I was staring up at the ceiling and I didn't know how I got there. That is the kind of testimony you would hear of somebody who just experienced sexual assault. I'm not saying that that's exactly what happened here, but it's very reminiscent of it. And remember, E. Jean Carroll has won her case where the court ruled that Donald Trump did sexually assault her. And the judge in that case, in the defamation trial, where E. Jean Carroll has won roughly $83 million in damages against Donald Trump, the judge said that it's essentially rape and that term was applicable for her to use. So that is reminiscent when somebody doesn't know how they ended up there, they weren't generally consenting, and they don't know what happened. That's not a good look here. And interestingly enough about this, and I think this is a really important takeaway from today's case, so the defense did not object to that testimony. And here's where that's really important is after the lunch break today on May the 7th, 2024, they did an oral motion for a mistrial. And look, they weren't wrong for the motion because in their minds, the way evidence works is they had agreed ahead of time that Stormy Daniels wasn't going to be asked about the specifics of the sexual intimacy between the two of them, whether it was sexual assault or not. And in the end, she testified to a lot of details that could be determined to be prejudicial against Donald J. Trump. And it maybe did not have the weight to determine if this had any importance to the questions at hand in this trial, which is again about falsifying business records with the intent to either violate election law or to violate tax law. So judge always has to weigh out whether or not the information adds value, I'm using layman's term here as opposed to legal terminology, versus whether it will cause the jury to have a bad view of the defendant that's not relative to the weight of that evidence to the questions that are at hand here in the trial. So I think it was a reasonable motion, but Judge Mershon shot it down. And he said, you didn't object enough. You should have been objecting to the evidence as she was testifying, saying that this objection shouldn't be entered in testimony, it's prejudicial, etc. These things should have happened. And so Judge Mershon shot down the oral motion for mistrial. I think he was right. What do you think? Give me your comment below. I'd love to read your comments. I want to hear about that. But something else that was very interesting that happened in the Stormy Daniels testimony was the fact that she thought she might get on The Apprentice. And I want to quote again the Washington Post here. So take a listen, take a look at this, because I think it's really relevant to Trump's ego. He said that he's got an idea that she should go on the television show. And Trump said, she said, there's no way they would ever let me on television. No way NBC would let an adult actress on TV. You don't have that much power. Not that you ever needed to hear more about Trump's arrogance. Trump said that he did, and that Daniels reminded him of his daughter Ivanka. Quote, she's smart and blonde and beautiful. The way he framed it actually made perfect sense. It was all about PR things, the spin. He's like, this would really shake things up. You could go on the show and prove you're not just a dumb bimbo. You're smarter than people think. And he'd get a lot of attention for this crazy idea. Again, Donald Trump had sex with a woman who he said reminded him of his daughter Ivanka. That's deeply troubling in its own form. But also the fact that he thought he was so powerful he could override the NBC execs and what they would think about this. I think that that's fascinating. All right, let me get to the one thing about the Trump defense this afternoon that happened here in the courtroom on May the 7th, 2024, that I think is really important. The Trump's defense attorney went hard after Stormy Daniels, went hard at her for saying, hey, you've got it in for Donald Trump. You hate Donald Trump. You're out on social media saying horrible things. You went on Michael Cohen's podcast. She went very hard. The defense attorney went very hard at Stormy Daniels. Now, look, there's two sides of this. One is you've got to what's called impeach the witness, which is to undermine them, say that they're not trustworthy. You shouldn't believe this witness. They're not a reliable witness. They have a vendetta, whatever the reasons are. So it's very important for the defense to do that. However, there's a delicate line with the jury that if you're going too hard after the witness, which I think Trump's defense was right on the line of this today and maybe stepped over it, where you suddenly look like a bad guy, like you're abusing the prosecution's witness, where you're saying things exclusively to make them look bad. And then now all of a sudden the witness becomes a sympathetic figure in the eyes of the jury. And I think that they went right to that line, if not stepped over it today, making Stormy Daniels look like she's a sympathetic figure because all you're doing is attacking her now. We know that Donald Trump's attacked her. Of course she has a right to attack him. And that's what they went back and forth about. And I think it was really an interesting strategy. And I don't think it worked out as well for the defense as they thought it would. I think that there's plenty of opportunity here to impeach Stormy Daniels. They went after her saying she lied, that she was threatened in the parking lot back in 2013 in Las Vegas that Stormy Daniels testified to today. But you can say that and do that in a way to convince the jury that she's not a terribly reliable witness without just bluntly attacking. I think that the defense, again, maybe did that today for their client, not necessarily to win. And I just wonder how much of what they do in court is because their client is sitting there and then beating them up afterwards and constantly giving them notes. Look, attorneys, we serve our clients. And that is, we are susceptible to that sometimes. I mean, do you think, comment down below, do you think that some of what they were doing in court went too far because of their own client. I would love to hear your thoughts. So here's the good. Stormy Daniels said what she needed to say in court today. It's that simple. Donald Trump's defense team lost a motion for mistrial. The bad. I don't know that there was a lot bad. I don't know that Stormy Daniels added a lot. I'm really going to be interested to see what happens when Michael Cohen testifies. So what's next? Court's not in tomorrow, Wednesday, May the 8th, 2024. They'll be back Thursday morning, May the 9th. Will we get to see Michael Cohen? Do you think he's coming up next? Again, comment below. I love your comments. And again, it's really important for you. If you enjoy these shows that we're doing here on Really American, please be sure to share them with other people. Encourage them to subscribe as well. So click that like button, smash the subscribe, share with your friends, your family, your frenemies. Look forward to talking to you again soon. I'm Ethan Bearman. This is Really Legal on the Really American Network.